Hi, I'm Zac Farnell. Thank you for joining me for the final edition of your Timberlane weather update. It's crazy to think I'm in my last week of school here at Timberlane, but before we wrap up and I give my thank yous to everyone who's helped me along this journey and to everyone watching now, I'd like to give a typical Timberlane weather update forecast for the next couple days, the 5-day forecast and the extended forecast, before I also try and give a long-range summer forecast for what I think much of the country as well as our area of the country can look for temperatures, for precipitation, and for the hurricane season, and hopefully tornadoes and thunderstorms as well. Again, then I will wrap up with some final thank yous and some final words before I sign off for the final time. So before I get talking too much, let's get into the general forecast that we give just about every week here. So yesterday the temperatures were a lot cooler than what we've been used to through much of June. Temperatures really rising only into those low 60s across our area, but that was an exception in terms of much of the country. Looking towards the west coast, even the central plains, the Midwest, the west coast, all of it very warm and above average in general. Overnight those temperatures did not cool down, especially across the south. Not much of a break for them across Texas and the West Coast, really still dealing with some of those very hot temperatures. In towards Washington, there's a desert out in the western part of Washington that got up to 105 degrees yesterday, and we're only into June. So really some warm temperatures moving in towards that area. For us overnight, temperatures didn't dip down a whole lot, really into only those 50s, but today you're seeing much of that rain in towards the morning, and the clouds throughout much of the day that lingered held the warmth out of our area. So while much of the East Coast got some of those very warm, very nice temperatures in towards the 70s and 80s, we were stuck down in the 60s with some cloudy skies overhead. You're seeing that on the satellite now. Much of the East Coast clouded in general, but especially our neck of the woods in towards New England, generally overcast throughout much of the day with some rain showers mixing in. Two interesting notes that I want to make on this satellite as well. You're seeing across the Midwest in towards this area, sort of those wispy looking clouds, generally a haze that you're seeing on satellite. That's actually smoke from wildfires. Much of this area has been constantly clouded out with smoke over the last couple days. That is going to continue for the next several days. Hopefully we will get some rain in towards that part of the country before it becomes too serious. Additionally, down in towards the very far bottom corner of your screen here, south of Florida in towards Cuba and the Caribbean, you're seeing another sort of similar haze. That's not from wildfires, that's from dust all the way from the Sahara Desert that's made its way all the way in towards the Caribbean. That is part of the reason why we haven't seen any hurricanes so far this season. Hurricane season has started. It begins June 1st and runs all the way through November 30th. And although hurricanes can happen outside of those months, this is when we really expect to see a first storm of the season begin to at least think about happening. We've not seen that happen yet because the Saharan dust and the dry air has really clogged any chance of that happening, and you're seeing that right there. On the fronts map, we can't see any dust, but we can see in a similar area a whole lot of thunderstorms. Summertime thunderstorms beginning to build through the area as we get towards tomorrow. So again, today we're recording this, it is Tuesday. Looking forward tomorrow, a little bit of a system pushes through the area. That should hopefully all be done, and much of this cloudiness that was across our area, again, that pushes off the coast, this high pressure system can allow the warmth to flood into our area. Tomorrow, hopefully pushing those 70s, maybe the 80-degree mark, but in towards the south, some of those thunderstorms lingering as we get towards not tomorrow, Wednesday, but the next day on Thursday, closing in on graduation soon here. You're beginning to see a system building across the Midwest that's going to cause us issues potentially on graduation day. Still a very warm one on Thursday before we get towards Friday. Some of that rain getting closer to the area. A lot of this area engulfed with thunderstorms, many of which could be severe as we get towards the south and the Midwest. But overall, a cooler day on Friday, and it will continue to cool down as we get towards Saturday. Let's look at the 5-day forecast and see exactly what we can expect. In terms of numbers, tomorrow I mentioned the warm-up. Hopefully pushing 80. If we do get towards 80, it'll be low 80s. Partly cloudy skies and a generally very nice day overall. Thursday, the warm-up continues. 84 degrees expected for the high, with the lows dipping just below 60. But you're seeing those low temperatures continuing to dip in towards Friday. That pattern coming with a cold front that's moving in, gonna generally be the preceding factor for a lot of this rain that we're looking for on Saturday. Friday, the low temperatures down in towards the mid-50s. Generally those highs still in towards those mid-70s, but partly cloudy skies begin to turn into overcast as we get towards, the end of the day on Friday. And then on Saturday, it's hard to say exactly what will happen now. It'll likely be showers more than a consistent shield of rain moving into the area, but unfortunately, what was looking like showers in the afternoon on Saturday for graduation day is now looking more like showers in total the whole day. I don't want to give a totally pessimistic outlook though. It is only about a 40 to 50% chance of rain throughout much of the day on Saturday, and those highs in towards the 60s, so it certainly won't be too warm. But if it does not rain, it will be cloudy and generally not the nicest day for graduation. Same thing with Sunday, the day after, warming up a little bit as we get out of that rainy pattern beginning to come in this weekend, but still cloudy skies and just into the mid-60s. The extended forecast, I got Monday marked as chilly, but still those temperatures will be kind of similar to Sunday. What will be nicer about Monday though, the sun will begin to peek out and it will begin our warming period. Next Tuesday, for those who are still in school, the temperatures will begin to warm up and it will probably begin to feel like a shorts and a t-shirt, maybe even a shorts and tank top type of day. Those highs in towards the 70s, pushing 80, pushing the upper 80s as we get towards Wednesday, and into Thursday, pushing 90 even. Friday cools down a little bit, still in those upper 80s as the possible high, more likely in towards those mid to low 80s overall. Generally, all of those days expected to be pretty partly cloudy to mostly sunny, with a couple days that maybe some more clouds will mix in, but generally it'll still be nice overall. Well, now we're on to our summer outlook, and I want to start with the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. I'm just going to call them NOAA from now on, and the forecast that they put out consistently over the last several weeks. So they like to break it down in 8 to 14 day periods. So this is what you're looking at is a map of probabilities, basically. What the red indicates, and starting with orange and moving up towards the darker shades of red, are higher probabilities that it will be above average temperature-wise. That is for not next week, but the week after. So we're looking pretty long term here, 8 to 14 days out. This will be in effect for much of the East Coast, a warming pattern they're expecting. Of course, the deeper red does not necessarily mean more above average than normal. It just means a higher chance of above average temperatures than normal. So much of the south expecting some of those warmer temperatures, in towards the northeast expecting some of those as well. And now we're looking at precipitation. It's the same deal. Anything in green means a higher percentage chance that there is going to be more precipitation falling than usual over this time period. So 8 to 14 days, not super extended forecast, but kind of giving you a little bit after our extended forecast that we do here. The percent chance of higher than usual precipitation, pretty decent across much of the East Coast, especially in towards our area and up into the Midwest. You're seeing that as well. So maybe you're looking at the extended forecast, it looks pretty hot and it doesn't look very rainy. Well, after our extended forecast, this forecast is saying we'll probably get some showers and it'll probably cool down a little bit as our percent chance of being above average isn't exceptional. Then we get into our total summer outlook. So this is the same exact deal, a little bit of a cleaner look on the graphic in general, but it's the same deal as the last one. The deeper the red, the more likely it is that you will see temperatures above average for June, July, and August. So June, July, and August, before we get back into school, look at the Northeast. We are expecting a pretty decent chance of above average temperatures. Reading the bottom graphic there, it's somewhere in the 50% chance that we see temperatures above average and above the usual from what we typically see this time of the year. Out towards the West Coast, an even higher chance of that happening across much of the desert Southwest in towards Utah, southern Idaho, and in towards the parts of Colorado in the Rockies. The one saving grace about this general warmth that we're expecting, the lesser extent of the probabilities of warmth right through the typical tornado alley that we would expect. So the upper plains, the lower plains, the south, this area generally not looking at the highest chances of above average temperatures. And that's a decent thing because a lot of tornadoes and thunderstorms really need those above average temperatures, those really warm temperatures to feed off of. And on the precipitation map, it looks even better in terms of a hopefully calmer tornado season. This is now probability of precipitation. You're seeing in this orange, this is below average precipitation, below average probabilities of precipitation, across much of the plains, especially the high plains. The high plains are typically where you see tornadoes in towards the late summer season. And so now that we're into late tornado season and not expecting a ton of precipitation, hopefully that means that we will see fewer thunderstorms than usual in a tornado season that does not reach the peak that we saw last year, which was a very dangerous system in general. In towards the East Coast in our area, kind of similar to the 8 to 14 day range. Generally, the chances are there of above average precipitation, but not terribly above average. We're looking sort of towards those 30 to 40% chance of above average precipitation throughout much of the year. Now we're going to get into another interesting factor for both temperature and severe thunderstorms, as well as begin to give a hurricane season outlook. This is the La Nina and El Nino period. Basically, a La Nina and an El Nino is just a sea surface temperature anomaly. All it means is that off the coast of South America, off the coast of Ecuador and Peru, there is a strip of ocean that warms and cools in cycles. So year over year, it'll be warmer than average, and then suddenly it'll flip and be cooler than average. When it is warmer than average, we call it an El Nino. El Ninos are typically associated with sort of those cooler temperatures in towards the Midwest and the South, and less hurricane activity across much of the Atlantic, although it will increase hurricane activity across the Pacific because the temperatures are warmer. And there's a weaker link between El Nino and La Nina and tornadoes, but there's a possibility that El Ninos create weaker tornado seasons that generate fewer tornadoes in general. And then the other way around, when the sea surface temperatures across the Pacific in that area are cooler than average, it's a La Nina. And typically this generates warmer temperatures in the Midwest, in the South, more hurricanes across the Atlantic, and again, a weak connection between more tornadoes in general. So taking a look at the graph with all of that in mind, where are we standing right now? Basically right in the middle. We were at a La Nina period for 2024, and that's part of the reason why 2024 was such an active hurricane season. La Nina was deeply entrenched in that area. However, we've seen it kind of warm up generally, and now the forecast goes as so. We're in a neutral cycle right now, which means we're neither warm nor cold, but we're expecting it to cool down maybe a little bit. You're seeing this one red line in here, that thicker line, sort of indicating where we think the average of the models will be. So the models predict whether it'll be warmer or cooler. Some of them predict warmer, some of them predict cooler, but on average they're saying it'll stay about the same and maybe dip a little bit cooler. So expect more La Nina type temperatures more than El Nino type temperatures. And you're seeing now probabilities on this big graph. All this is showing is that the computer models are saying through April and May, it was almost 100% guaranteed that we were going to be in a neutral cycle. And that's come true so far. As we get towards June and July, you're seeing the chances of this neutral cycle decreasing, and it continues to taper off later into the season. This blue graph is the percent chance of a La Nina, or cooler than average temperatures in that part. You're seeing it rise across the several months of the summer this year before really peaking in towards October, meaning that in September and October, peak hurricane season for the Atlantic, there is an increased chance of a La Nina compared to right now. That means that there will likely be an above average hurricane season. That's exactly what this graphic here is to show. Put up by the National Hurricane Center, I've pasted it up here to kind of give the most updated information from the experts. They are saying a 60% chance that this hurricane season will be above average, a 30% chance that it will be a pretty typical and average hurricane season, and only a 10% chance that this season is below the usual. What to expect exactly? 13 to 19 tropical storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. We typically only see about 5 hurricanes per season, and only about 3 of them become major, and only 14 named storms, 14 tropical storms typically as well. So this season is set to be well above average, set to be well above the expectation that a typical season would set, although hopefully it will not be as bad as last year. Additionally, I'll say the tornado season, a bit hard to predict, much harder than the hurricane season because tornadoes are just so unpredictable and happen so fast. Hopefully it will be below average, considering below average precipitation and generally not as warm temperatures across the Midwest and the Deep South. Overall, I still think that there is a decent chance that this tornado season will be a pretty active one overall. So just stay weather alert, weather aware as we head in towards the Plains hurricane season, Plains tornado season, over the next several weeks and several months as well. And finally, I'd like to wrap up with a couple thank yous. Mr. Zanello, he has been incredibly helpful in this whole process, from teaching me how to edit, teaching me how to work in front of a green screen, and kind of bringing me all the tools I needed. He has been fundamental in making this happen, and I cannot thank him enough. Miss Foley, who has helped me work through in ELO itself, taking over ELOs just this year, and it's been a pleasure working with her in terms of getting this whole product in front of you right now. To all the principals and admin staff here at Timberlane for making ELOs happen, making everything you're seeing right now, the camera equipment, the green screen behind me, this clicker in my hand right now, this microphone, all of it could not happen without the wonderful admin staff and all of the staff here at Timberlane that have made this a wonderful journey. To my classmates who have continued to push me to be more and more interested in weather every day and have really been a fantastic supporting cast over the last several years, and finally to everybody watching at home. It's been a pleasure being able to work here at Timberlane, to be able to get a wonderful education here at this school, and to kind of carve out my own path. And that would not have been possible without interest from people watching here, people watching the short form content on Instagram, and I hope that someday we get another Timberlane weather update show, and if not, we can look forward to the sports segment and Timberlane Beats and other media type content out of Timberlane here for several years to come. There are some wonderful underclassmen who are working on some fantastic ELO projects as well that would not be possible without interest from you guys and without everyone's wonderful parents as well. Finally, thank you to my parents, thank you to my family, my sister, my brother, my mom, my dad, and my grandmother, my aunt, uncle, everyone watching who is family. Thank you so much for continuing to push me to do this, for continuing to support me, for continuing to watch, and yeah, that's all. So for the final time, I'm Zac Farnell. Stay weather alert, weather aware. I look forward to seeing everybody over the next several weeks at graduation, over the summer before I head off to college, and hopefully when I return from college as well. So for one final time, I'm Zac Farnell. Thank you so much for joining me. Signing off.